But, as in life, Diana did cause intense debate within the royal family, this time on how they should respond to her death. Her ex-husband wanted to fly her body back on the royal plane, but the Queen disagreed.
No, Mummy, that's out of the question. This isn't a matter of state.
What are you talking about?
Diana's no longer a member of the royal family. She's not an HRH. This is a private matter.
The message to the nation was perhaps that they didn't care about Diana. The message they were wanting to convey is that even in this time of sadness, there are more important things than Diana. Let's keep a bit of tradition. She was, after all, only the divorced wife of the Prince of Wales.
Tonight, how the Queen was adamant that Diana's coffin should lie in a private funeral home until Prince Charles telephoned from his plane on the way to Paris to ensure...
Whatever had happened between him and Diana, she had been his bride, his wife, and she was the mother of his two sons. And I think from the outset there was a great battle of wills with his mother and with the old guard at Buckingham Palace about what they should do, how she should be treated.
18 hours after the fatal crash, Charles, along with Diana's sisters, escorted the body back to Britain, her coffin draped with the royal standard.
The saddest duty that has ever been performed at RAF Northolt.
By Sunday night, Downing Street was letting it be known that the Prime Minister wanted a people's funeral for the People's Princess, a request the Queen's staff later agreed to.
And a decision is imminent on a state funeral for the People's Princess.
With the way now clear for a public funeral, Monday morning saw the first of daily 10 o'clock meetings at the palace to finalise the plans. The only problem was, there were no plans for Diana.
There wasn't at the time a plan for Diana, Princess of Wales, because each member of the royal family needed to make arrangements and let the Lord Chamberlain's office know what those arrangements are. And when you're at that age, you don't think of your dying and what your funeral arrangements are going to be. But there was a platform from which to work on.
That platform was the Queen Mother's funeral plans. Operation Tay Bridge, as it was known, was simply amended to suit Diana. By Tuesday, the People's Princess speech had made Blair a national hero. But the royal family's refusal to leave Balmoral had turned them into villains.
The question of Diana versus the royal family, great love for Diana, not much for the royal family.
Suddenly, her world was spinning out of control. She was so sure in her own mind, I think, that the proper way to proceed was to stay at Balmoral with the two princes, to behave with decorum, dignity, discretion. I mean, even my own mother, who is a monarchist, was saying very loudly before the newspapers did, where is she? Why isn't she saying anything? And, you know, that's from an older generation.
But former palace insiders claim that by now, whatever she did, the Queen simply couldn't win.
If she had come down, there would be an adverse press. Heartless grandmother leaving her grandchildren in their time of grief. Because she didn't come down, she was called heartless because she wasn't with the people in London mourning, many of whom didn't know Diana anyway. So, quite frankly, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
And public hostility was about to get worse, for a small yet highly symbolic reason.
But the conspicuous lack of a flag over Buckingham Palace, because the Queen's still up at Balmoral, is seen by some as evidence of the royal family's remoteness from events in London.
Wherever you looked for a flagpole, there was the Union Jack flying at half-mast. And it was just astounding to Tony Blair and the people advising him, like Alistair Campbell, that the royal family took so long to grasp the simple fact that it looked bad, very, very bad, to so much of the public, that the one flagpole that was bare that week was the one at Buckingham Palace.
Tradition dictates a flag only flies over the palace when the monarch is in residence. But even those then close to the Queen recognise it was a mistake to leave the pole bare.
It was an error, but there were so many other issues to consider at the time. The flag was slightly pushed to one side, which it shouldn't have been, but it was.
Don't tell me there isn't a flag flying at half-mast over Buckingham Palace.
The people, she was their king and queen.
Will someone please save these people from themselves? Fine, I'll call Balmoral.
Right, so...
Because as Prime Minister, I've really got nothing better to do.
3 days after Diana's death, the phone lines between Downing Street and Balmoral were about to become much hotter, as the public mood turned from grief to anger.
Disgusting. She's the biggest hypocrite done on this earth.
Self and Charles should slip out gracefully. They're the most cold people on this earth.
Three days after Diana's death, the royal family were still refusing to leave Balmoral. 500 miles away, the crowd outside Buckingham Palace was growing angry.
I think it's disgraceful that they're not here in residence, and I think most people I've been speaking to this morning have said exactly the same thing.
They could have said a lot more. I mean, all these people here today are showing the strength of the nation, and she hasn't said anything, the Queen.
I think by halfway through the week, there was a real danger of mutiny, of rebellion. I think there was a real risk that when the Queen and Charles and everyone else finally came down for the funeral, dragged themselves away from Balmoral, they would have been booed at best in the street, jeered, perhaps, you know, things thrown at them.
Calls for the Queen to address the nation at this time of mourning.
Downing Street's PR team were keeping Tony Blair informed of the hardening public attitudes they came across, and he became increasingly concerned at what he was hearing.
They could sniff the mood turning against the royals. They could read the notes in the placards saying that the royals had got blood on their hands. And they came back to Tony Blair midweek and they said to him, the mood out there is getting really, really nasty. And that's one of the reasons Tony Blair becomes increasingly frantic in his attempts to persuade the royal family they have to get out of Balmoral, they have to fly a flag at half-mast, they have to meet public opinion.
Even more alarming for Blair was advance warning of an opinion poll in the next day's newspapers. 70% of people believed the Queen's behaviour had damaged the monarchy, and a quarter of them thought the monarchy should go.
So, what would you suggest, Prime Minister? Some kind of a statement?
No, ma'am. I believe the moment for statements has passed.
But according to the film, Blair's pleas for the Queen to change her stance were angrily rebuffed.
If you imagine I'm going to drop everything and come down to London before I attend to my grandchildren who've just lost their mother, then you're mistaken. I doubt there is anyone who knows the British people more than I do, Mr. Blair, nor who has greater faith in their wisdom and judgment. And it is my belief that they will any moment reject this mood, which is being stirred up by the press, in favour of a period of restrained grief and sober private mourning.
If that's your decision, ma'am, of course the government will support it. Let's keep in touch.
Yes, let's.
Divisions within the royal family were by now becoming clear. Prince Charles took it upon himself to issue a statement.
All the royal family, especially the Prince of Wales and Prince William and Prince Harry, are taking strength from the overwhelming public support.